Wow, what a win!
Can't believe it.
I would say mind-blowing.
Chess social media is ablaze this evening. No one can quite believe this incredible game played in the Chennai Classical Masters tournament. It was the reigning world champion Gukesh D with the white pieces and running into the India #1 right now, Arjun Eragaisi. What a game this was. Here we go. It's a battle of who's the best prepared out of the opening, then all hell breaks loose. It's like Gladiator up in here. Why do they develop the bishop before the knight? Well, it's to stop white from going bishop g5 or maybe exchanging, then bishop g5. Subtle, grandmotherly stuff. We now see the exchange. This is known as the Carlsbad structure. No one knows if it's spelt with a K or a C. Driven many grandmasters utterly insane. Now this bishop develops into the game. And it's one of the more aggressive ways to play. And Gukesh says, I'll see your aggression. I'll raise you one with the epic move, pawn g4. What an opening variation, kicking this one back unceremoniously, and now it just gets better. A real favourite of the Global Chess Committee. Here it comes, you guessed it. Pawn h4, ploughing the second foot soldier down the board here. Such aggression from Gukesh, and if you capture, the follow-up move is queen b3. And the point is, the queen's a bit overloaded, protecting a bishop and wanting to protect the b pawn via the b6 square, but you can't, so you have to go b6. And the line continues something like this. White gains a lot of time. This one's a bit of a subtle attack. g6, then you bring more pieces. I'm not going to keep going, it's too deep. There's no knockout blow, it's just initiative for white, forcing black to make weakening pawn moves that white hopes to exploit later on. e4 is often coming soon. Big theme. Let's back it up. We didn't see the pawn munched. Knight d7 instead, solid chess. And now look at this, it's just absolutely wild. You don't do this unless you know your openings. Knight h3. What is going on? We're about to delve deep. Obviously, if I'm talking about openings, I should mention Lotus Chess. Do go and check it out. They've even released a new feature called Foundations for those who want to start from the bottom up, build the chess knowledge from scratch. Incredible for beginner players. If that's you, you want a step-by-step way to learn, do check out the link below. Free to get started. There's something there for everyone. What's the idea of this move? Maybe knight g5, looking to munch the bishop. Kind of looks logical for me. Is h6 coming? Or the knight move so the bishop can retreat? No. Queen b6. Hits a tender pawn. Gukesh covers it. Decides it's important enough. The knight would have been loose as well, of course. And now in response, bishop takes on h4. Now that is wildly risky because pawn g5 now takes away the retreat square. How are you extricating this bishop? Knight e7 simply played. Knight g1, retreating to the starting square but opening the attack. Knight g6 defends here. Knight f3 double whammies. Surely you're now in dire straits. No, there's a get out of jail free card. The move is played. Bishop g4. Pin and win, or pin and survive we should say. Will the pin be mightier than the sword? We're about to find out. Bishop h3 was played in the response. All of these are only moves, by the way. These guys have just prepared the heck out of this game. They've pretty much completed chess. h5, another only move. Takes was now played. You could have taken on croissant there. Different game. Let's not even go there. It's crazy enough as it is. This piece is about to drop, or is it? Not quite. There's enough defenders on it. So this is how it all transpires. Incredible complications. They've both found their way through. Arjun's 30 minutes up on the clock. course he is, Mr. Prepared. This pawn now drops, but let's be real. It's white with the better position here. Bishop g3. You can't even castle that black king. Look what happens if you do. Can you guess the tactic here? With the king being boxed, common tactical motif in such positions. Knight takes on d5. Pawn takes and rook c1 check. You can't even block with a knight. So queen has to block. And of course you win the lady. You go on to win the game. So with castles not being possible, you have to start doing some weird and wacky stuff. Knight df8 is the starting move. King f1. Getting to safety by hand. And if you now go knight e6, immediately, not yet played, f4 gets very problematic. f5 on the way, and the pawns are rumbling. That's why knight e7 was played first. Now if you go f4, you're in time with g6, and you've got two pieces on the square, or a piece and a pawn. Subtle stuff. King g2 goes for safety. The queen should now activate to one of these squares and cover d6, because the bishop invasion becomes a big problem in the moment. Not played. Knight e6 instead. Knight e2 now on the board, although you could have already swung the rook over. Given this b2 pawn, it's what we see in just a moment. King d7 was more prudent there, because now when rook h1 comes, the white army is launching into the position and Arjun is holding on by the skin of his teeth. But he says, you know what? If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die with a full tummy. Queen takes on b2. Not the best, as you can see. White is crushing. But look at this. Rook h8 check. You're about to win a rook in the corner, so knight f8 is played. Bishop d6 is excellent. If this knight moves, then this one's about to drop off the board. The black queen's in Siberia. The rook's completely disconnected from the defense. But somehow Arjun fights back here and the game gets wild. Now he plays rook d8. Best move, hits this bishop. Just to show you some attacking themes, say you munched another pawn, cleared the way for this one to run. Then there's queen h3. And you're looking to take, king takes, and checkmate here. Because this bishop would then pin the knight to the king. Just one theme. Sometimes the knight rotates round. So this is why black has to react. We see rook d8 to hit the rook. Bishop rather. Bishop c7. Don't go rook d7. Tactical motif once more. Can you see it? Bang. Remove the defender of the rook. Both defenders of the rook. Take it off the board. So that's why rook c8 played. Still you're in the x-ray, which is uncomfortable. But at least this knight can hold on to things. Bishop goes, rook goes, bishop goes, rook goes. It's a draw offer from Arjun. Gukesh doesn't want it, as you can see. And he's now threatening simply this. And winning an entire piece. Such a weird position. Knight f5 played to stop that threat. And this move looks so natural. Play it round, remove the defender of the square, then bring the bishop in. And there's a loose rook on c8 behind the knight. It's dropping with check. How on earth do you fight against this? There's the thunderbolt. Black's completely winning. Knight takes e3 check. And that's how fast a chess game can turn. So, no knight g3. Instead, we saw bishop g7. Look at that. It gets the double question marks. So harsh. Bishop f4 was apparently stronger. Very subtle. I didn't start clicking super deeply. I guess it covers the knight e3 check stuff. And then you can go knight g3. Queen f3 was also a strong move because of the check motif. This is the game. Don't take here. That's bad. Takes with check. And everything soon collapses on f8 and so on. So this was played instead. And Arjun just keeps blitzing out these only moves to stay in the game. I don't think I've ever seen any this many only moves in one game. It's bonkers. Again, he offers this piece. Again, if taken, you eat a rook. So king e7 back. Draw is basically being offered. Does Gukesh want it? No, he wants to fight. And so understandable. In this position, he plays e4. Opening lines of attack. Hitting the knight. It has to go. If you take, that looks horrible, bringing the queen in. So knight takes on g7 was played. Taking the plunge. Dropping an entire rook. White's an exchange ahead. Now on this square here, the f8 square, we see knight g to e6, another only move. And amazingly, these incredible knights cover checking squares around the king and hold each other, keeping that king somehow safe. Knight g3 is played here, leaving this pawn to drop, then bringing the queen back with check. This is the thing, you distracted that black lady. Knight d7's played in the defense, and you could take this pawn. It's not played. What's the line here? Knight f4 check. I didn't have this one prepared, but long story short, queen a1 check can be played, or you can pick up an entire rook. Black is attacking, white's dropping material. So let's back up. This is loose, hanging. We see rook h4, therefore saving it. Also eyeballing the lady here on the 4th rank, stopping any kind of takes. So is the knight, of course. You don't really want to be taking with the pawn. 2 pieces on the square. And if knight takes on g5, this queen starts munching here. It's not ideal. So this was played in the game. Holds the c6 pawn, the a7 pawn. Targets this pawn here. And if white tries to open things up, well, you lose an entire rook. That piece is loose. So this queen backs up, covers a pawn, looks to invade maybe. But at this stage, white is no longer better. Despite being the exchange up, the game is swinging. Look at this. Pawn d4. I mean, it's absolutely incredible how these knights hold everything together, possibly have checks, loose pawns, a running passer, connected passers. f4 played in response, opens the king, but looks for the counterplay. Pawn d3, queen d2, and now the knight hops into the game via the c5 square, hits the e4 pawn with the queen. What an incredible game this is. Gukesh, completely unfazed, finds the absolute best move. Pawn f5, storming the barricades. Takes was played. Pawn takes is too slow. You also drop a rook. So knight takes check, king d7, and knight e3. An awful move, which swings it big time in Arjun's favour. If the knight stays on f5 and you play either king f3, coming in to defend this pawn, or even the more ambitious e5, because now the rook is covered by the knight, then the game remains in a balance. But it's very, very complicated, somehow slightly easier for black to play as well, with a pawn deep in the heart of the position, tying down the queen, this one looming with menace. This was played, however, allowing the pawn to drop, and what a huge pawn it is, because the knights are now swarming. The king's feeling naked as the day he was born. Queen f2 was played. Best move. Looking to activate. Knight takes on e4, hits the queen. I mean, it looks crazy to have gone queen f2. But apparently this is the absolute best way to play. Give that pawn yes, which was looking likely to drop. But activate the queen. Go for counterplay. Gukesh playing so well in this game as a big picture here. But Arjun just that step ahead once things began to turn, get complicated. Rook f4 goes for pressure. Obviously the knight currently covers the square, but anything can change. They're scrambling low on time. The c-pawn advances here, and surely this is the moment to invade with the queen, get the wackiness going, start the checks. Well, now you just got mated in 5. It starts with queen takes on a2 check, and wherever the king goes, the knights, the queen, it's all too much for that poor king. Here's an example, mate, using the knights. Beautiful. So back it up we go. You can't invade. You can't lose the a3 pawn. We therefore understand the push. At least now if it drops, it's not dropping with check. c4 looks really promising, but you don't want the queen to invade. So queen c6. Excellent chess from Arjun, low on time. Stops the queen invasion, covers the king. What a job these pieces are doing, somehow holding it together. And now the foot soldiers are free to run down the board. Queen b3 check was played. The explosive c4 in response, not king d7. This one, and it really is astute calculation from Arjun, incredible intuition. He gives up the pawn with check, lets the queens leave the board because he now gets to invade with the black king. And when you run this with the all-powerful engine, it's a drawn position. But in a practical sense, so difficult for white to play. The forces are a bit split. The king now picks up tempo and marches in. And look at the d-pawn, running faster than Forrest Gump right now. The best move, the only move to keep an equilibrium is king f1. And the lines are very long, very complicated, very varied. But long story short, apparently white can hold things together by bringing the king close and then looking to swing the pieces round. Try and win the pawn in some lines with this knight. Okay, you are an exchange ahead, but 2 pawns down. In the game, however, check was played. A bad move, a panic move, a move that helps the black king activate. Once again, we get 4 only moves in a row here. The sheer number of only moves in this game is insane. We must be approaching about 15 from Arjun now. Check is played, king c2, check, king back. Looks like the pawn is now blockaded and you've got nothing better than a draw. But king e2 is a huge problem because you can't carry on the series of whirlwind checks, or windmill rather, because the knight's now covering the square. So this one's pushed to an inferior post. Yes, you could promote, but Arjun wants more. He now brings these knights around, so cool and calm as a cucumber. King steps away. Didn't look deeply as to why that is, but I guess related to some kind of checks, mating nets. Now knight e1. What's he up to? Arjun Erigaisi. Rook swings behind, covering the square further, but now check. King h2. Knight ed3. And these ones, an absolute nightmare for Gukesh D, have worked together to stop the rook from even seeing the pawn, and you're now forcing the knight away from the square. It's unbelievable chess here. Still we don't see the promotion. There's a good way to throw it all away in one move when you can't get out the forking way of knight c3 check. So the winning move, clean, cool, crisp, knight e4. And here we see resigns from Gukesh. The pawn's simply going through, making a queen. This checking square is covered. This rook is covered. There's just nothing. It's hopeless. It's over. Queen's being made and the king's being mated. Gukesh D is having such a rough time of it. I do feel for him. For whatever reason, he cannot find that form right now the last year or so. Hope you enjoyed. What a game. Have a look at the video on the screen if you want to see another epic game of chess. And I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.